Welcome back to our journey through the Bible. In this episode, we're diving into the book of Nehemiah, a powerful story about leadership, faith, and rebuilding. Nehemiah is the 16th book of the Bible and continues the story of God's people after the Babylonian exile. Right after the events of Ezra, together, Ezra and Nehemiah tell the story of Israel's return to their homeland and the challenges they faced as they tried to restore their identity as God's people. The book opens in the Persian capital of Susa, where Nehemiah is serving as cupbearer to King Artaxerxes. One day he hears the devastating news that Jerusalem's walls are still broken down and its gates destroyed. For Nehemiah, this isn't just a political or security issue, it's a spiritual crisis. The walls represented safety, strength, and dignity for God's people. Nehemiah responds first with prayer and fasting. This theme is crucial throughout the book. Before every major action, Nehemiah prays. Eventually, God opens the door for him to ask the king's permission to go and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Remarkably, the king agrees, and even provides resources. When Nehemiah arrives in Jerusalem, he inspects the walls and organizes the people for the rebuilding project. But the work doesn't come without opposition. Local enemies mock, threaten, and plot against them. Some try to discourage the workers, others accuse Nehemiah of rebellion, and still others spread fear. Yet Nehemiah remains steadfast, reminding the people the joy of the Lord is your strength. He organizes guards to protect the builders, encourages the people to stay focused, and relies constantly on prayer. Against all odds, the walls of Jerusalem are rebuilt in just 52 days, a testimony to God's faithfulness and the determination of his people. But the book of Nehemiah isn't just about physical walls. Once the city is secured, Nehemiah and Ezra lead the people in spiritual renewal. They gather the community to hear the reading of the law. The people weep as they realize how far they've strayed from God's commands, but they are reminded to celebrate as well. Because God is merciful, they confess their sins, renew their covenant with God, and dedicate themselves to obedience. The story shows us that restoration is not just about rebuilding structures, but about restoring hearts to God. Nehemiah himself is an inspiring figure, an example of faithful leadership, courage, and perseverance. He shows us how to respond to challenges with prayer first, action second, and determination throughout. The book ends with Nehemiah's reforms, as he continues to guide the people in honoring God, correcting injustices and reminding them of their covenant identity. So, what does Nehemiah teach us today? First, it reminds us that leadership rooted in faith can make an enormous difference. Nehemiah wasn't a king or a priest, he was a servant in the Persian court. But God used him to restore a city. That shows us that no matter where we are or what position we hold, God can use us if we are faithful and prayerful. Second, it teaches us perseverance. Rebuilding is never easy. Whether it's a wall, a relationship, a church, or even our own lives, there will always be opposition and discouragement. But Nehemiah reminds us to keep working, keep praying, and trust God with the results. And third, Nehemiah highlights the importance of spiritual renewal. Rebuilding the walls was important, but renewing the people's covenant with God was even greater. It's a reminder that external success is meaningless if our hearts are not aligned with God. The book of Nehemiah closes the chapter on Israel's Old Testament history of return and rebuilding, setting the stage for the long wait for the Messiah. It's a story of faith, resilience, and God's unending mercy. Thanks for joining me in this walkthrough of the book of Nehemiah. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And stay tuned as we continue our journey through the 66 books of the Bible.